we reaching May now. It's May 2020, and we are at postcard number 98. So we need nearly reach the 100 now. I'm Mario, and
I'm Whooper.
with with me is Whooper. Today we're gonna talk about episode 4 of Kaguya-sama, episode 5 of Yesterday no Utate, episode 5 of BNA and Kakushigoto, and the final volume of Goodnight Punpun.
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
All right, I think let's get the one out of the way. So I think we're gonna go with episode 5 of BNA.
Okay. How'd you feel about this baseball episode?
I all right. I gonna upset you, but I think overall I enjoy the episodes.
I'm not upset by people having an opinion about stuff.
Um, the name of the title of the episode is Gritty Bears.
Gritty
What's it?
Bears.
Yep.
Interesting that they would use the adjective gritty. I don't think there was
Yep.
anything gritty about this episode.
Um.
I mean, there's a whole
Well,
gambling
they.
plot, but it's like in the background and hardly even matters.
Yep. 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 Um. All right. It just weird. It just feel like a filler episode for once. I like it the fact that like it actually explore another area of the anime series, which is sport, and which is like the only sport they play is baseball, and which is they think of baseball is like life and death game, kind of like the idea. This is like the only episode where I see like the characters go very cartoonish.
Yeah,
Like
this definitely
more,
felt like some Kill la Kill type of stuff.
even like even like some episode of Little Witch Academia, they have that as well.
Yes, I suppose they did. Yeah.
Um, I like the way that how Michiru like involved into this. I don't like the fact that though that when she do on the superpower stuff and no one really like questioning her special abilities. Like the whole thing is just very pure or poor pace, and for me it's like poorly like putting in together. But I like the atmosphere. I at the end of the day I just like the episodes.
Uh, okay, cool.
Do your rant.
I don't have one. I don't care. I just don't care.
All right, just tell me like what does it work for you, or is that like everything?
I just like compare this episode to Dorohedoro episode 7, which is the baseball episode of
All right, yep,
that
remember
show.
that. Yep.
Like there's nothing at stake here. What is at stake in this
Yep.
episode of BNA? The
Actually, there is a stake that like the best team gonna be disbanded
Yeah,
if
but
they lose
who cares
or
about them?
something.
They're just like a bunch of weird cartoon bears that look like cartoons, and only like two of them have speaking lines, and we just met
All right.
them.
Mm-hmm.
Do they even really matter? I mean, Michiru doesn't even like baseball. She loves basketball. But why would they design an episode about basketball? That's too personal and character oriented. We got to get some silly cartoon stuff happening. We got to kick off another loosely connected plot that is supposed to expose part of Anima City's, like gritty, seedy underworld when really it's just Shiro showing up like 2 times in the episode and being like, your criminal days are over, scum, and then it's all fixed.
How do you think about the plot involving the coach? It's just Jackie
It's just Jackie
and the
Robinson.
gambling stuff.
He's just
Jackie Robinson.
he's just Jackie Robinson, but an animal instead of a black guy.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
He was a famous baseball player. He was, I think, I'm pretty
All
sure
right,
he was the first African American in Major League Baseball.
all right.
Um, but what makes Jackie Robinson's story, like really, really interesting and really moving is that he was never violent, even though he received like constant death threats and bad calls from umpires, and like opposing teams
Mhm.
would, like use racial slurs and mock him, uh, and all he was faced with all that adversity, and yet he didn't retaliate. So that's what was
Mhm.
interesting about Jackie Robinson's story. But in this one, we see in the flashback to when the coach was the first Beast Man in Japan's major league, he beats a guy nearly to death with a baseball bat.
Yep,
What a guy!
yep.
I don't care about the coach's story. He's like whatever.
Yeah. Mhm.
He's just there to link the silly baseball parts to um, the stuff about
The city and
the
the crowd.
the gambling, yeah. But it's everything just feels so loosely connected. Like if you even look at it kind of sideways, the last string holding it in place will dissolve into
Mhm.
nothingness. Like, does Shiro do anything except get dropped into key scenes to warn of, like, oh, you better not keep doing this, or else something bad's gonna happen? We don't see him doing
Mhm.
any like detective work, or we just see him talking to the mayor, and then talking to the bad
Yep.
guy, and then talking to the coach. Then he talks to Michiru at one point, like, don't keep doing this, or else bad things are gonna happen. And then
Um, you know that he got like the superpower nose, right?
yeah,
He snip out everything.
okay, but that doesn't mean it's satisfying to watch him just like show up everywhere. We don't get to follow him as a character. He just appears.
Yep. Wow.
That's about all I got.
Yep. I agree though that I always have like this. I think this episode is like a very typical um studio trigger story episode story. Like it's a feel loosely connect to each other. If it doesn't really hold up at the end, like when we like trying when we just sit down and trying to connect everything together. Um, the animation though, I still like the presentation of the show.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess I disagree on both counts.
On the presentation,
No,
you
on
say?
both the story, like the story and the presentation. I didn't like the presentation this episode. I thought it was silly.
Yep.
Um, not a fan of when Trigger goes.
Too bouncy.
Well, yeah. I mean, the animation style here is just don't animate. Have
Mm.
have a character like start bouncing off the walls. Only instead of watching them, move toward a wall, hit it, bounce, and move off, like metaphorically speaking, we just see them in a bunch of different poses,
Mhm.
around the frame, and it's implied that they're like, freaking out or like hyperactive. Not really a fan about that. We see Michiru throw the exact same pitch like 15 times, including the scene
Mhm.
near the end where she inspires a literal stadium full of people by throwing a baseball into a wall.
Mhm. Mhm.
What?
Yep.
Hello? What? Who would be inspired by looking at that? I'd be like, why? What's wrong with that girl? They should get some medics out there because she's clearly having some sort of breakdown. Like, get a doctor out in the field and carry her off on a stretcher. That scene to me, that scene was even dumber than Aim for the Ace when Hiromi was like hitting the tennis balls into the wall and the rubber was like
Yep.
breaking down, because at least that scene is conveying something clearly, which is that Hiromi is training really hard. But why
Mm.
why is it necessary that Michiru like throw a baseball into a wall why like throw a pitch when no one is standing over there
Yeah.
to inspire people to care about baseball again after they're all like, "Oh man, who cares about baseball if there's no gambling?" What?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I can see your point there. I'm interested about this. You just mentioned the baseball match in
Dorohedoro.
Dorohedoro. I don't see that match have any stake though.
It
Do they?
definitely does because, damn, what's the Tengu mask guy's name? It's not Fujiwara, is it?
Uh,
I,
all
I
right.
can't remember
I
his
don't
name,
remember.
but
Yep.
get the he has to get his friend back. That's why
Oh
he
yeah, yeah,
goes to
that's right.
Hole,
Yep.
and so the reason for his participation in the match is to retrieve his friend.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's trying to do the whole time. So he becomes like the main character of that story, just briefly for that chapter or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
And in the end, he finds a way to sneak off with his friend. But then they go back to Hole, and then Ebisu turns into that gigantic lizard and kills him and stuff. uh, the baseball match in Dorohedoro was like it. I mean, you could even argue that it has sort of a similar vibe, and that it's like chaotic and it's totally nuts and off the wall. But it's so much more inventive. Like instead of people just being crazy and hyperactive, there's
Mhm.
there's like a pit, like a
Mhm.
sinkhole in between second and third base, and there's a robot who's controlled by the doctor.
It's not really a robot. It's more like Frankenstein's bug.
Yeah, yeah, and there's Ebisu in a shark costume. Like think about Ebisu in a shark costume, her type of expressiveness versus the way that Trigger portrays expressiveness in this episode.
Mm.
Ebisu, like her range of motion is fuller. There's more personality to it. Um, it doesn't seem quite so silly. Like it's silly when you think about it, but it's kind of it evokes more emotion than just oh ha 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 when you're watching. You know, it's kind of cute. It's kind of it's like a little bit absurd. Like there's
Mm.
more flavor to it. I don't know. I'm just getting
All right.
nothing from this show at all.
Yep. 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 It's all come down to preference, I think. But I can clearly see your love of that show and your like don't care about any of these events in BNA.
Yeah.
In fact, just for the readers to just for the listeners to know, we have the discussion just before the postcard, and the next one for is gonna be like the last BNA episode we're gonna cover.
Yeah, I mean there are 6 available right now, and the next one will be number 6. After that, I'm not planning on watching
Yep.
anymore. Um,
All right.
and there aren't any more episodes out. But recently, one of Trigger's producers, Tattoon, who's kind of he's semi-active on like Western um, image boards and discussion threads and stuff. He said that the
All right.
production is finished except for the finale, so everything will probably
Oh,
air
that's cool.
on schedule.
Yay, love that. Now just a news of like like all these anime getting delayed just get me depressed, a bit sad.
I mean, it's a good thing that they're getting delayed. You want them to work through this whole thing and all get sick and die.
I definitely want them to get delayed just for the fact that I don't want them to like put the incomplete thing together. Like I saw the last few episode of the baseball game of this season. I think the name is Takamumi
Tamayomi.
Tamayumi, and it was rough. Like the animation was just amateurs.
Man, that show was rough from the beginning. I, I remember like
Yeah,
hating it.
it's just getting worse. So yes, if you know, like if they delay and they get like a proper stuff done with like good quality, I'm all for it. Like no matter how long I have to wait.
There you go. Delays are good things.
All right, let's go to the next one then. Let's go with Kaguya-sama.
I thought this episode was good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the episodes. I think the main pack of this is like we get some introduction to some new characters, and even like the spotlight to one of the side characters, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, Hayasaka is pretty. She's a gold mine.
Yeah, I agree. It's especially at the end where she, like where she doing where she feeling frustration for being rejected.
No, I don't think it was that she was. I suppose it was, yeah, because um, it means she failed in her mission.
Yep.
You know, she didn't. She doesn't care about Shirogane. She's just mad that she wasn't able. Like, she's mad that Kaguya pressured her into doing it in one day.
Yep.
And so she wasn't able to. But she probably could do it in a month.
I I actually think so too. Like for what she does in one day, and she actually affect Shirogane to that extent. I think that if she was allowed to have like a month to prepare and build up, she could do it.
Yeah, most likely, and that's probably why she's so frustrated.
Yeah.
But it's her character's really fun because she has she like it's part of her character that she disguises herself and assumes different personalities. Because
Yep.
she attends the
Yep.
same school as Kaguya, so she's got her like Gyaru mode, which she's
Mhm.
in when she goes to Shuichi Nin or whatever their school is called. And then there's of course she's Kaguya's maid, so there's that side of her personality, and then she she adopts the same disguise that she did, I guess, in season 1 when she took on that fake name when she was working at when Shirogane came over when Kaguya was sick. She does the
Uh-huh.
same personality, but she dresses up differently and makes up a whole bunch of lies about herself. Like the show can do whatever it wants with her character, kind of.
Yep.
Um,
Well, I don't remember what she does in episode in season one though, but I kind of
well, she's
see her
there, you
doing
know, and
that.
she makes
Yep.
up a false identity so that Shirogane won't recognize her. I think because she goes to his
Right.
school. Um, But then he
Oh
so
yeah.
he
Yep.
then he does recognize her when she approaches him at the bookstore, I think.
Yep. Yep.
So she has to run with the same fake name, like Saka A. Smithy or something like that. And I think you'd probably know this better than I do. Isn't Smithy a name that like actors and directors give themselves when they don't want to be credited in a work, like in the
Uh,
credits in the film
all right.
industry?
I'm not too sure about that. Smith, you say?
Smithy.
Smithy. I'm not too sure about that though, but I know that when someone don't want to give their proper name, they just like uh making up like an alias. So it probably happens. It probably right.
I just think I recognize that name in particular as one that, like, when directors don't want their name associated with the film,
Mhm.
um, they just use the last name Smithy, and when someone sees that, they realize, oh, immediately, like, this is a pseudonym.
Yep.
And not only that, but the reason they're using it is because they think that this is trash.
And this episode also like introduce Miko Lino
Eno. It's two
and
eyes at the front of her last name.
Ino or Ino, and I absolutely love her characters.
Okay,
I,
yeah.
I
I mean, she's cool.
yes, she
Why do
might
you
have
why do you love her so
depression.
much?
All right, because of her like stood up personality. She doesn't want to lose Shirogane. She's fighting against Shirogane, and actually Shirogane failed her as a rival. So I
Yeah.
think that's good. And then it turned out that like the content in the paper that she give people, it just like gonna put people off. So she have like a childish a personality inside her, uh, and I really love it.
Sorry. Yeah, she definitely does present herself as a threat, which is good,
Mm-hmm.
because it forces us to take her seriously and Shirogane.
Mm-hmm.
And she just seems like the really dutiful little sister type, I guess.
Yeah, well, and then she she exposed herself as a fan of Chica.
Yeah, well, not. I wouldn't even say expose herself necessarily because I think that might be a strategy,
All right,
like in order to
all right.
lure Chika
Yeah, that
away
might
from
be it.
Shirogane and Kaguya.
Yep.
But it doesn't work because her
Now
poster is
that I
so
think,
bad that Chika's
yeah,
like,
well,
this was a
now that I think
mistake.
about that, like Chica is a kind of characters who easily be persuaded by the others. So that might be a strategy from her.
Yeah, she was the great thing about the way this episode is sequenced is that we get that middle chapter where Shirogane passes over Chika's assistants in order to get Kaguya to help him write his speeches.
Yep.
So Chika actually has a reason to feel as though like she should
She
take her talents
she's
elsewhere.
not needed. Right.
So then when Miko shows up in the last segment, Chika is like easily she hears all this praise for her, like she can speak all these languages and play the she's a really great pianist. She's like, you know,
Piano.
she starts to get a big head and she's like, "Oh, at least someone appreciates me."
God. Lovely Chica.
Dumb Chika.
Don't
Dumb.
say that.
She's
No.
she's an airhead.
Yeah, but say that I think for the three segment that we got this week, I the second one is my least favorite. It's alright.
Yeah.
It's still good. It just doesn't compare to like the first and the third one for me.
Yeah, it's the worst one, but it's okay. It does do one thing that's pretty important, I think, and that's that it kind of levels the playing field between Shirogane and Kaguya again. Because after the previous episode, she like pleaded with him to run for president.
Mm.
She like grabs onto his arm and says, "It's you should run again, or you should stay the president." And so he's like, all of a sudden, since this is about a big struggle between the two of them to see which one will confess first, he kind of has the upper hand because she's been like very honest with him in that moment. But in this one, when he summons her, he says behind the school building, but they end up like in the between two buildings where literally everyone is watching them.
Yep.
And the way she responds to his request is really interesting because she says, whether it's with your campaign speeches or any other question you might have for me, my answer is yes,
Yep.
gladly. So she like when she
I
says that, she kind of implies she knows that he likes her, and if he were
Yep.
to confess, she would agree. So she
Yep.
makes it like very tempting for him to just, and in fact we hear inside of his mind, like his inner monologue, like maybe this has been going on too long. It's fine if I'm the one who ends up
Y-
confessing. So
Yep.
she's toying with him, and taking
Yep.
advantage of the scenario that they're in. Their environment, I should say, with everyone watching, to get that like stunned reaction
Yep.
from him. So it's fine. It's a fine chapter. It's just not as fun as the other two, I don't think.
Yep. And seriously, it's just like if one of them isn't that prideful, like they could very well be together. But I think that's like the whole premise of the show. Like none of them despite really loving each other, can really confess and can uh, they they can like go on to the next step. I just love the way that uh, Hay-
Hayasaka.
Hayashaka like just briefly go through their like moment together, and still wonder why like they still making no progress. Love that.
Yep, that definitely is baked into the premise of the show.
Yep.
But I think you can go even further than that and say that part of the reason that they're interested in each other is because they're both so prideful. Like
Yep.
I don't know if
Yep. I can see
Kaguya
that.
would want to be with a guy who is just like very straightforward and can express interest in her like without a second thought.
Mm-hmm.
Because she herself is not someone who's able to do that. Like she had a very restrictive upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
She's not really in touch with her emotions herself, and so I don't like. It might be good for her to be with someone who is that way and who can like kind of teach her to be that way a little bit. But she's not. It's also not something that she would look for or really maybe be able to handle. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so the fact that the president is not, he's not straightforward with her. She can tell that he likes her, but he can't say anything about it. Like I'm sure that she feels the same way, and she probably is drawn to that on some level.
Mm-hmm. Agree with that.
So it's a
I
good episode. I'm glad we got this one because like 2 and 3 were not my favorites.
Yep.
They were fine, of course, and the show's very well made, but it was good to watch one where I didn't have any like glaring problems with it, and I could just kind of
Mm.
sit back and let it play and have a good time.
Yeah, that is true. And I definitely looking more forward to the new characters, Ino, and like what will she bring on the tables.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how serious a threat she's going to pose to Shirogane in terms of the election. Because at the end, when we see her poster, which just looks hideous,
Yep.
it's kind of implied that she's like Shirogane is feeling very secure in his lead in the polls or whatever they are.
Yep.
Um, but
The next one gonna be about that
about what, like the vote, like the final
the
vote,
vote.
or okay,
Yep. Because I think that like in Japan and even like in America, like whenever they do the candidate for the council thing, they have to do a speech in
yes,
front of the whole school.
yep.
So I think they're gonna do that, and it will be interesting to see like what her speech gonna be like. I I would say I would guess that it's gonna be impressive.
My prediction is that it's really going to impress Kaguya,
Uh-huh.
but
Okay, yeah.
the most of the students are not going to care.
Right. I actually that's interesting because I don't know like what Kaguya gonna think about her. Like think if she like a threat, a rival, like a love rival, or like anything, it's kind of interesting to
I doubt
to
it.
think about this chemistry.
I doubt it. I mean, she's a first year, and the show already
Shirogane
has
actually take
Chika
a
for the character who's like supposed to get in the way of the
yeah.
love between the two protagonists. So
Well, I do think that Shirogane take like a keen interest to Ino, and maybe like Kaguya see that as well.
I think he just feels she's annoying like a fly. I mean, think about the way that he and Ishigami were reacting to all of Ino's, like attempts to get Chika on her side and talking about how like she's a strong proponent of justice and stuff
Well,
like that. They were just thinking like, I wish this girl would shut up.
I I think differently though. I think that Shirogane think Ino as like someone like him, like someone who always the top of the class, the top of the whole grade, and both to be like someone very powerful. So I think I think Shirogane can relate that from her. It is I think Ishigami who understand Ino, the real Ino, more than anyone else. And I think Ishigami in this episode is a really good foil characters.
Uh, what do you mean by that?
I just feel like he's supposed to be a supporting actor, and he does a really good job on that.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, he's pretty entertaining so far this season. I liked his thing
Yep,
in the
yep.
last episode where or 2 episodes ago, where they were reflecting on like all the things they had done over the past year, and he felt left out.
All right, yeah.
And then in
Oh
this
yeah,
one,
yeah.
in
I
this
think
one, he has a close tie to. I think he's in the same class as her.
yeah, he's the same class with her,
Uh,
and it seems like she doesn't care one bit about him.
yeah. I mean, if there's gonna be any sort of romance between, like, involving Maki, or whatever her name is, I don't already forget Miko. It's probably gonna be
Miko.
between her and Ishigami.
Well,
They're both first
I'm
years.
not gonna disapprove that.
Not gonna disapprove. Okay. Well, we'll see how things develop. I'm pretty sure
Yep.
that she's just gonna get blown out in the election. Like it's an established gag at this point that
Yeah.
she's really smart, but it's not
She
gonna work out. Like her posters look like crap, and what
yeah.
the kind of things, the kind of promises that she thinks will be appealing to the student body are probably
Did
they're just gonna be like, we don't care.
yep. Did she actually say like all the that she was looking for with to the students?
Um, what do you
Did
mean?
she say that? Like did she say any of her promises or like any
Oh
of the
no,
thing that she would like to change?
no, but she's gonna have to when they make their speeches,
Yep, yep, that's right.
assuming they
So
do that.
we're gonna see in the next episodes.
Uh-huh.
All right. Let's move on to the next one. Yesterday no Uwo Otate.
All right. 5 episodes, 5 different characters.
Five characters.
What if we get 18 different
Um,
characters for all
yep.
18 episodes?
First thing though, I oh my god, I did not expect it. This to be like a love quattro, like a five-way love.
Well, he just gets introduced for 1 episode and then he's out. You know, he's going to go
Yep.
overseas.
And then and then I realized that this is just like a one-off. So this character he just appear, and then he's gone at the end of the episodes. He actually, but really I think that the pacing is pretty spot on this one. I don't
Yeah.
feel it any rush or anything.
Yeah, like if you're going to talk about one-off episodes, this is the way you want to do it.
Mm.
Like you really you focus in hard on that one character. Like if you think about BNA, this most recent episode that BNA had, if it had been like the coach's story rather than the
Yep.
story of Michiru getting like yoinked into a baseball league and somehow making it all the way to the finals for some reason,
Yep.
like the World Series, which makes no fucking sense at all. Like if it hadn't been about her and instead it had been about the coach and we had really like learned about the sort of discrimination he faced as a beast man and even the way he responded to it violently and the consequences of that and how exactly he got wrapped up in the underworld of anime, like that actually would have been a perfect opportunity to learn about the way that the underworld of BNA really functions if we had actually followed a character into it instead of what we got.
Mm.
You
Yep.
know, that would
Yep.
have been like this episode of yesterday, Woutate, where it's like, you know, we get a lot of Minato.
Uh-huh.
We learn a whole bunch about him. You know, we learn about his tie to one of the main characters from high school, and the moment where she
Right.
like took that lonely looking photo,
Yep.
that was really for some reason I was really I was really drawn to that moment because it was an interesting way to keep Haru's like her kind of sad past in focus,
Mm.
even though the episode is about somebody else, and even though she is mostly like a Genki girl for most of this episode,
Yep.
the show hasn't forgotten that
And
there's another side to her, and we see that in that flashback.
that's right. And there's another level to that picture as well, because I remember Minato when he was talking with our main guy about like taking pictures. He said like he doesn't want to take a king picture of people because they're gonna be like personal attachment to it.
Yeah, I remember him saying that. Like portraits, he thinks when you
Yeah.
when you take a portrait, you as the photographer like project your own values or whatever. Like
Yep.
the way that you frame the picture says too much about how you feel and not enough about how the subject of the photo feels.
Yeah, that's right. And
But that's what he ends up.
yep,
That's what he ends up taking.
yep. So I really love that. And yeah, it very consistent to his characters. And I think he's like a better characters than than the main character
Dude.
Riku for now.
Bro, I agree. I want
Well,
a spin off where we follow Minato as he goes overseas with his camera and stuff. I don't care about Rikuo at all. I mean, Haru even says in this episode like he's
Yep.
an asshole.
He's an asshole. Well,
And
we are
she's not wrong.
we are unlucky that we got this guy as the protagonist, but well, that's what we got.
Yeah, we just got to live with it.
Yep, yep. Yeah. So far, let's talk about like the main relationship between Rico and Haru, because so far it's still very one sided. I think that their relationship gonna be more developed in the future when I think Rico get to know more about Haru. But as things stand right now, I just feel that like it's just very sad for Haru to just keep chasing a a guide, a something that like she clearly being like the one who are at the disadvantage.
Yep, it is sad, and we still don't really know why she likes
is.
him. That's like an issue that I have, I suppose. It's not. It's I don't know how big a problem it is for the series, but we
Yeah,
don't
well,
like what is so special about this guy. I know they met once in the past, like 5 years ago or something.
yeah,
But
I know that in the future we're gonna get that flashback, and then maybe then we will know about like we will understand why Haru falls so hard for this guy.
Yeah, I don't really get it as of right now,
Mm.
but whatever.
Yep.
It's not as though we're always like in Rikuo's head or focused on his character.
Yep.
It would have been cool if we had gotten some of the story of him like taking that photo of the convenience store guy's band, because
Yep,
you can
yep,
see
yep,
the
yep.
angle is from backstage, so he must have been invited back there to take photos.
Mhm.
And that's something that we got in like the first or second episode, right? The convenience store guy wanted
No.
him to take a photo for the cover of their album.
The very first one.
Yeah. And he takes that photo
And
of Haru.
Nah, oh Haru.
Yeah, he takes a
Pro.
photo of Haru. That's the very end of episode 1, and he looks at it and he goes, like he's
Yeah,
seeing
but
her in a
it
new
actually
light.
but it actually the crow that he was taking.
What?
Have you seen like the extras?
Yeah, I've seen those, but I've already forgotten the one from episode 1.
Yeah, the one from episode one is he's showing Haru the picture that he end up giving the band as the album cover, and it's the crow.
Oh,
It's
okay.
Haru crow. So totally her not in the focus.
Ouch.
This is sad. for her.
Ouch. Dude,
I
what a
know.
jerk.
and he and after that, like Haru was really upset, and he just said, I didn't tell you that I'm gonna take your pictures.
Yeah.
That's just so cruel of him.
Well,
At least though in this episode we see him like moving on. He actually making progress.
who is?
He having like another job. Riku.
Oh,
He actually have like another part-time job. He actually joined to the class reunion.
yeah, he
That's
does go to
why
the class
I think
reunion.
he was walking back with Shinako in that moment.
Yeah, I mean, we see a brief moment with his buddy from college who we saw in episode 1. He's like, I can't remember.
Yep.
He was drunkenly asking Rikuo to like hang out with him or
Yep.
something. But of course, he finds an opportunity to go home with Chinako,
Yep.
and
Yep.
and then we get the scene where they're both crossing the road at the same time.
Met.
And that's the catalyst
Yep.
for like the second half of the episode for like the
Yep.
romance to kind of enter the picture more, at least more openly than it had before. Whereas before, you could tell right away that Minato was like interested in Haru,
Yep.
which is why Rikuo was so he was so pissed off, like because he's doing the same thing
This
with Haru that Shinako is doing with him, like kind of stringing them along a little bit.
Yep. And Minato is way more talented than Haruo, and I think he knows it.
Yeah, well, that's why.
At
That's
least
why.
it's like
You mean then Rikuo?
then Rico. Yep. At least in like taking pictures and stuff.
Yeah, that's why he calls him so pretentious. That
Yep.
guy's so pretentious. I mean, what he was saying was kind of pretentious, but
Yeah, I would say that they're a bit. There's an air of pretension in there. Yeah.
yeah, but he knows things about photography, whereas Rico is just like a casual
Yep.
fan,
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas what's his
Uh,
face? Minato is an enthusiast.
Yep. Well, he want to have his career, taking photos. So that's wholly different from Rico, who just take it as a hobby.
Well, I don't know if he's that concerned about his career being in photography because he drops out of college.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that he was going to school for photography, right?
Well, not really sure about that, but now he want to go around the world to take a picture that he want to take. So that basic. Oh yeah. He study. I not really sure he studied photography, but he want to be a journalist. That's what he studied for.
Well, yeah. Well, he wants to take photos, documentary photos. He said.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that is his goal, and that's likely what he's studying to do. I mean, this is not the internet age. We're in the '90s in this story,
Yep.
and it's not as though you can just. Well, Google wasn't invented until later, but there were still search engines and stuff. You could still research things online and learn, but it wasn't. The accessibility of information wasn't there 20 years ago. At least not like it is now. So if he knows all of this about cameras, then he's probably studied in some like formal or semi-formal setting. This probably is what he's going to school for, and he drops out just because he feels like the work that he's doing is not it's like not authentic. I think that's the sense that I got, is that he wants to be like more closely connected to the sorts of pictures that he's taking, and he wants there to be like more of a connection, I guess. So that's why he wants to kind of stake everything on it and go out and make that like 100% of what he's doing.
I can really see that.
He's a cool guy.
It's cool.
Haru
Yeah.
should get a plane ticket and go after him.
Yeah.
Leave Rico alone at his
sure.
convenience store job.
Let's talk about the key moment where the four of them meet together, because I would say like in other series, in other show, that would be a very cliche moment. But here though, they when I first see it, I saw that, oh my god, that it is so choppy, it is so cliche. But the way they handle it, it actually pretty good.
Well, how did they handle
I
it?
All right, I like the way that the how the characters react in there, like how Haru when he saw Riko and Shinako, the first thing she want to do is just like ignore them and go. She doesn't want to like make a big deal out of it. But then they all cough up to each other, and and even if Shinako doesn't recognize Minato because maybe he looking more mature now. Minato actually recognize her as like his previous teacher.
Yeah. I mean, he's got the beard. So Haru didn't recognize him when she first saw him. And he was also
Yep.
kind of quiet. Yeah, but you would figure that the teacher would recognize him, right?
Yeah, but for the brief moment there, I don't think that she gonna like remember that much.
I guess.
But but yeah, so there's I don't know if she don't remember him though. But yeah, so I think that like all the tension and actually the guy Minato pick up a lot of tension and pick up the chemistry between the three just out of that meeting. I actually think that it was like a situation done very well.
Yeah, it was I thought it was fine.
Yep.
They had to move things into the second half, kind of. And it was a perfectly okay way to do it. I mean, it does seem like a very TV sort of scenario.
Right.
But
But
I mean, and the way this is being adapted, it's like 100 and something chapters being squished down. And you can kind of get that feeling as you're watching because you leave one scene and then you're suddenly in the middle of the next one.
Yep.
But there's usually some sort of link between them, like a character who appears in both, even if the setting completely changes and it's a different day and a different time of day, or even a different mood. Like
like
you're following
like
the
the
character through the episode. And
right. Like the first thing we see that Rico having a new job, I was taken aback a bit by that because of the jump.
yeah,
But then it follow up it flow really well. So I think like I don't know like how many content that they have already burned through, but for the last 5 episodes, I think that the pacing in the anime was just about right.
yeah, it's good. I mean, Rico does have a new job at the start, and you're like, wait, when did this happen? We didn't know this was going to happen. But then you get involved in the conversation that he has with Minato, the new guy, and his new boss, and it's just like life just keeps happening. We're just at a different point now. We move forward a little bit in time, but it's not as though this is like a battle shonen and any time that we missed is like precious time where a character could have leveled up and we need to keep up with their power level. We can't skip any development of like a new techniques or punches or something like that.
Yeah.
We've just moved ahead a couple weeks or like a month or something like that. And the series is all about conversations between human beings. So what he's in a new environment, he's got a new job. What is he going to do there? He's going to talk to people, and we get that right away. So we're back in familiar territory immediately.
Yep. And I love the way that Shinako now finally she said that she's gonna move on. Hopefully she does that.
Oh yeah, when she's talking about the seasons changing,
Yep.
and that it's time for her to like change with them. Something along those lines, like she's gonna turn from
looking
winter to
forward,
spring, something.
Yep.
Yeah, it was some metaphor like that having to do with the seasons and the passage of time and everything. Yeah, she does say that. We'll see if the show delivers anytime soon.
Right. So yep, still like one of the most solid show this season.
It's pretty good.
Yep. Do you have any other things on your notes, or we can move on to Kakushigoto?
Oh yeah, we have to talk about Kakushigoto. Sure, let's do that.
Kakushigoto.
This was
is
an
like one of
episode.
the series Yep. I just say like it's always happened into in a gag uh anime that that you enjoy everything while you watch it, but at the end of the day, you don't remember much of what happenings.
Well, I will say,
Yeah.
excuse me, I will say, you were right about Goto, the dad, being the one who left Hime the boxes at the
Yay.
old house.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I don't even remember how she stumbles upon that conclusion. Does she smell it or something? Oh no, the
No, no,
handwriting.
no, no.
The handwriting of.
The handwriting.
uh,
But that was some clumsy exposition there, because like she remember the exact number 18 that he wrote
I think it was 17.
from like, yeah,
But yeah,
17,
whatever.
from like 8 years ago.
Yeah, I mean
So
it.
I think that's it's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, he is her dad, so she probably has a sense of what his handwriting. Wait, did I just say she is her dad? He is
Yeah.
her dad, so I'm sure she has a general sense of what his handwriting looks like. You know, even if in the flashback we see that she remembers a particular um, piece of writing of
I
his,
don't
like that's
even
not very
remember
likely.
that.
But I'm sure she could recognize his handwriting, so I think that's fine.
Yep. What he was writing then that she remember.
I don't remember. Probably something having to do with the competition,
Postcard, the competition.
the
But
the
she can't.
newcomers competition that he was
Yeah,
judging.
but because he can't read any of this, otherwise he would have some idea of what her dad real profession is. So
I don't
that
remember.
would be some, yeah, from something else. Maybe the postcard or something. Yeah.
I don't know.
And I just watched it like basically 2 days ago, so like still really fresh on my memory.
Um, we know that her dad's likely dead in this future. Like both parents are dead
Like
now, or dad's out of the picture somehow.
likely, yeah.
Because she like hugs the box, when she realizes that her dad left it to her. She gets all emotional and
Yep.
she like gives it a little hug. So
Yep.
something bad has happened.
Right. I remember like one of his assistant like once a month had to go up to that abandoned house in order to leave their manuscript or like their manga stuff in there once a month.
Yeah, I remember. I think I remember that as well.
Yep.
Um, and that's about all I got.
All right. What is happening? Like we just talked about him be decided to become a judge for a new artist, new manga stuff, newcomer,
Yeah, and that happens.
and that happens because of his daughter talking into it. Like
Well,
you had to
he
be become responsible to do stuff that you don't like, because to be a responsible person, I think.
well she
I think
says
something
she
along the
says
line.
something that her teacher told her, which is that somebody has to do the jobs that like society doesn't want to do.
They don't like. Right.
And hearing that, he's like, ah, yes, I see. So I must be I must be a judge in this contest. Whereas one of his assistants had already told him the exact same thing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he blew it off, But so when he comes back to their office and he's like, I have to do it because somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
Then that guy's understandably like frustrated. But that's
Um,
that's how it is. The parents love their kids, and if their kid does anything, they're like,
yeah.
"Wow, you're some kind of genius."
Yeah. Yeah. I think I know the feeling.
Yeah, you got some kids.
I have my nephew,
Yeah,
and I already think I see the best of the world. So
isn't that niece then?
is that so niece? Yeah, sorry, niece. So that's the girl,
Yeah.
and yeah. So just and I don't even know if I have a baby, like it's just my niece, and I think that like she already talented, she already like the best of the world. I don't know
Yeah.
if my daughter gonna be like in the future.
Well, I'm sure you'll think that they're great, but I mean the reality is that most people just end up turning out to be average, and
Yep,
that's
yep,
how
yep.
that's how the
That's right.
world really functions. It's like a whole bunch of average people just doing whatever
Yep,
job it is they've been given, propping
yep,
up whatever industry they're a part of, just in some small way.
yep.
But everybody
What
feels that
else?
they're unique and special, and that's how we refrain from like just killing ourselves, because
Yep.
we think that what we do has meaning.
All right. I think you know what you doing there. You
Oh
want to
no, I'm
make me
not trying to make.
Punpun?
I wasn't trying to segue into anything else.
All right. We have some more thing to talk about Kakushigoto.
Do we?
In this episode, we see how we see the main character's editor, and how an ass of a job he is.
Well, he just meddles. Like he ships a whole bunch of stuff to Goto's home, even though he wanted it in PDF form, and he adds LOL to all of
Yep.
his comments. His responses to
Yep.
the manga and the competition, making it look like he didn't take it seriously, which causes people to like roast him on Twitter.
Yep.
And he just makes his
He
life difficult. But it's like a two-way street, because whichever editor is in charge of Goto has been given Goto duty, because nobody wants to work with
he's
him.
the same.
Yeah, the editor explain, and we've even heard that phrase "Goto duty" in a previous episode. I think the editor explains to him like, whoever's assigned to you, it has like drawn the short straw, because nobody wants to deal with your eccentricities.
Yep. But he also like get Goto into like a hotel room with his assistant, in order to finish to redo the like 8 pages of the manga chapter,
Yeah.
and he keep following a girl, become like a creepy guy who like spend the whole day, the whole night, just staring outside the windows.
Well, he's in love with Nadila, or whatever her name is, the Indonesian housekeeper.
Yep.
That's actually the source of like the episode's best gag, I think. Probably the show's best gag so far, actually, now that I'm thinking about
Alright.
it. Like, there's the scene, the school teacher girl, the gym teacher, who has that little
Yep.
poker thing, and she always says like stranger danger.
Yeah.
She traps him at the house a couple times, and the second time he says, "No, you don't understand. I'm like close with this family."
Yeah.
So she says, "Well, let's find out." And at this point there's the three girls inside the home. There's the idol girl, there's the housekeeper, and then there's
Her,
Hime.
the
And so
doctor. Yeah.
they all have a different idea of who he is, because he's appeared to all three of them in different contexts. Like what the first girl says, stalker, because he's
Yep.
been around, I guess, when she's assumed that she has some stalker. And then
Yep.
Hime says CEO, because he's visited the house before, and Goto pretended that he
Yep.
was a salaryman and that the CEO was visiting him. And then Nadila, or whatever her name is, says spirit, because she held the
Yep.
seance to try to summon the spirit who lived in the house before, and he was there.
Yep.
So they all have
Yep.
they all have different interpretations, or like they're under different impressions about who he is, and it works as a gigantic callback to previous episodes.
Yep.
That's actually really clever.
Yep.
But the show like does it in such a low key fashion. Like all three women are like, "Oh, look, it's that guy."
Yep. Well, I think in terms of gag, Kakushi Goto is actually pretty good at that. I think it's more hit and miss for me so far. In terms of like the one that left me the big impact, though, I don't really find anything.
I mean, it's pretty low key
Yep.
type of
Yep.
show.
Yep. It's a bit too low key though.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I enjoy watching it, but
Mhm.
I don't really take anything away from it.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. Like only really a big emotional impact will be like Hime when she turned 18 and she visit that house, and we got like very little glimpse of that like every episode. I know I think that like when it comes to episode 11 or 12 we're gonna see like the whole pictures of that and we will make more sense out of it, but for now it's just like a little bit of rice that we have, and it's just not enough. I'm still hungry for more.
Um, I mean, I don't think there needs to be any sort of big emotional impact. It's a comedy. They've got this
Yeah,
other
it's a
thread
great
running
comedy.
where, there we look into the future and we see Hime, finding these boxes and there are links to her parents who are now, gone from her life, presumably.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's plenty of drama to that premise, I guess, but this is a comedy. I don't really need it to have some sort of big impact. I don't know. It's fine the way it is, I think.
All right. All right. I think it's time for us to move to the final volume of Goodnight Poo Poo.
All right, here we go.
Dude, I didn't see that coming.
What coming? Which part?
All right. Aiko commit suicide,
Ah, yes.
and Punpun like get away with it. Basically,
Get away with it. Is that how you see it?
that's how I see it. So he have like the big savior who saved him at the end of his life when he nearly commit suicide, or he didn't really commit suicide. He just like poked his eye out,
No, I
and
thought
then
I thought he tried to stab himself in the neck. Was that his eye?
I think it that were his eyes because he wanted God to disappear, and the God and the eye has been like have got image
Ah,
for the last few volume for the last two volumes. So he want to stop that away, and like Sachi just there to save him. That's what my take.
I
I actually feel a bit I don't know what to feel about this final chapter.
I
So
don't I don't know that I would describe it as him being saved. Death was what he
all
wanted.
right,
He
that
wanted
what
to
he wanted to
die.
say, right?
So she saves his life, but I don't know if she saves him.
I see that.
And I mean, at the end, he
He become worse
he's
himself.
not happy. The very last image we see of Punpun is him crying. He's
Yep.
waving goodbye to Harumi, uh,
Mhm.
and he's crying, and those are definitely not tears of joy. Like he's still alive. He's together in some sort of relationship with Sachi, and her daughter like thinks of him as her dad, but
So
that's not what he wants. Like in whichever chapter it is where he kind of converses with Aiko, um,
mhm.
the where there's the stained glass behind her, and then we see her in the church, and then she starts to wander about town, and he's just talking to her because it's Tanabata. Um,
Yep.
whatever holiday it was that she had a particular
Um,
connection to.
yeah, I was gonna mention the Tanabata thing as well. So you know what that festival is about?
Well, I know that there's the tradition of hanging those pieces of paper with your wishes
Yep.
written on them. You hang them on that particular kind of tree. Is it
Yep.
bamboo, like a bamboo tree that you?
Yep.
Yeah.
You know the story behind that?
No.
Yeah, it's about basically a guy and a girl who fall in love to each other, but they were taken apart, and that's why they decided to like meet each other once a year on the 7th of July.
Okay.
So that's the whole meaning between the Tanabata, and I actually think that the end of the world, at Pegasus put it on the July of 7 is allude to the Tanabata festival. There has a lot of reference about that.
How does the end of the world? What does the end of the world have to do with one
Well,
guy and one girl
I,
not being able to see each other anymore?
well. I don't mean Pegasus make that prediction out of being linked to the Tanabata festival. So not directly, but I think that's the intention of Arsenal, who try to like end things in the July of 7th, because I think like in a way, maybe what he meant, I'm not really sure here, that Aiko and Punpun separation is like that of the two of the two characters in the story. So they just uh apart right now, but like one day they're gonna meet each other again, maybe briefly. And that story, the Tanabata, is also like have to do with the Milky Way as well. So I think it's about when they apart, it's on the Milky Way or some sort.
Uh.
All right.
Okay.
According to the legend, the Milky Way separate these lovers, and they are allowed to meet only once a year on the 7th day of the 7th lunar month of the year. So that's the meaning of the Tanabata festival.
I don't get what that has to do with Pegasus.
I go figure, man.
I don't get what you're saying. Like Pegasus
Um,
never references the Tanabata or the Milky Way or
yeah. Well, he no, no. So I just say that Asano, the mangaka, are meant to have the end game in on this day, on this 7th of July, which is also the Tanabata festival. So that's why I think Pegasus make his prediction that the world gonna end on that day, and the kids see the Milky Way, the shooting star, as they was young, and it's been referenced a lot in this episode, in this volume as well, and the way that Aiko also writes her wishes in that thing, hoping that that wish is coming true.
okay.
So I just mean that it have the whole substack about that festival. So I think it has a meaning for towards Punpun and Aiko relationship.
Okay. I kind of lost the thread there, but all right.
All right.
I don't.
Uh,
I don't think Punpun's been saved.
all right.
Like this, I don't see this as a good ending. You know, like a happy
Mm-hmm.
ending, or him having been like rescued from
Mm-hmm.
his fate. Like I certainly thought he was gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't know if I really believe that, given how like how sick he is,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, or mentally ill or unwell, whatever you want to call it. I don't know that he could really like integrate himself into society uh, the way that he appears to have done by the end. Like
Mm-hmm.
when he's talking to Aiko, he says that he found a job, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, and he says he just wants to live a life without bothering anyone too much, staying out of people's way until one day they're reunited. Um, but I don't know, like just because he's found work and is like able to continue living, you know, and still has a relationship with people.
Hmm.
I don't think that he got a happy ending or anything. I don't think he got away with it. I don't like view it in those terms. Um, like life just goes on, and he's still a part of it, just because that's how it ended up. But it's not really, it's not a good thing or a bad thing that life goes on for him. It's just he's alone now. You know, like Aiko left him behind, and he has to keep on living. That's just how it turned out, and he gets to
he
quote
doesn't
unquote
have
see
like,
her once a year, and then
yeah,
that's all
because
that's left for him.
yeah, because he doesn't have like any more goal in his life. I think like he make it a goal that he's gonna protect Aiko, and that's also like what kept driving him for, you know, like uh, when he was younger. But now Aiko is gone, he doesn't have like any more purpose.
Yeah, I suppose so. Although like the ending is not,
Uh-huh.
it's not that bleak, I guess. Like it really does seem the message. I mean, I don't know what the message is necessarily, but it does seem like life's just gonna go on. He
Yeah.
this is how it ended up for him. It's not a happy ending. It's not a sad ending. Um,
Mm.
things are just gonna continue.
I don't know what to make with that ending. I certainly think that Aiko doesn't deserve to die like this. Like, you know, like the panel where Good find her corpse
Yeah.
hanging. It just it's heartbreaking. It it was I still don't see why she had to kill herself before. Like I they're just in the state of, you know, like at that point of time they're just in the state of confusion that, you know, that every behavior from them is possible,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it just and it's just that the way it planned out is one of uh the worst way that it could happen, I think.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, you could say that like this is the worst possible ending.
Yeah.
Like Aiko killing herself and Punpun having to live on without her. Um,
uh,
it's yeah. I mean, I when I saw the panel of him,
yep.
you know, the looking at Aiko's, you know, her dead body, you know, like that she had hanged herself.
Mhm.
When I saw that, I didn't really feel any strong emotion. I just processed it very quickly because it kind of made sense to me that
Yep.
I mean at that point, like you said, they're both um like so detached from reality.
Mhm.
You know, they're both like wounded. They're like blood loss is probably impairing their ability to like think, rationalize, and
Yep.
process information. Um, they're both like psychologically really damaged because they've both participated in the murder of another human being, and they both had
Mhm.
like they weren't on solid ground to begin with because they both had these terrible, um, abusive home
Mhm.
lives. So I mean it did seem like she and Punpun were just killing time for the last few volumes. They were just like wandering from place to place. They didn't have any clear goal. I mean, I suppose they wanted to find somewhere to settle down and like try to get a
Mhm.
job and live out of the way from others so they wouldn't be discovered and wouldn't be like a burden to anybody. But the brief part of the manga where they really try to pursue that goal just ends up in failure, you know, because what they did catches up to them so quickly. They hear the news bulletin,
Mhm.
And apart from that one little detour where they're they are really like looking for work earnestly, it's just a bunch of wandering. Like they drive around, they walk around, they go to a pier and like look out at the ocean. They try to go to her uncle's place because he's a doctor, but that doesn't end up working out at all. I really did like that they try to go they try to look for healing, for like a solution to their problems, and like Asano's response to that instinct is just to say there's no help. There's no help here. Like not only is the clinic closed, but the entire town is dead. It's abandoned because of a redevelopment project. Like you can't escape. Is the I think is
I,
the message there.
I just feel sad that they could have both been saved, like physically, if they just go to the hospital or they just like go to the police station.
Yeah.
But instead they just don't do that, and like before they she commits suicide, and before like she having like a final moment with him where she say that she happy that her wish was going true. They have like their relationship, like their situation have gotten for the worst. So not only that they got like injured, they still injured from all the wounds uh inflicted by the mother and themselves together. Also like Aiko in the state of confusion to the point that she think that Punpun gonna hurt her, and she stabbed him,
Yeah.
and Punpun was abusive to her as well. So it's just like, oh my god, that's just so sad. It's just so destructive. It's just like they have like every other option, but they decided to go for the worst.
Well, I don't know. How many options did they really have?
Well, they
If
just go to the hospital to get saved
Yeah, but
for
then
once.
they're gonna find out Aiko's name,
Yeah, well,
and there was, the cops were after her at that point.
it should have been like better than this. I don't even know. I just don't know why she have to hang herself like alone. I'm not really sure like what she think, what crossed her mind when she decided to do that. She doesn't want to burden Punpun
Yeah, that's why
anymore.
there was a gag in her mouth, so he wouldn't hear her choke. He wouldn't hear her and be able to respond. That's why she gagged herself.
Jeez.
Yeah, she just couldn't take it anymore. Like the I suppose that the guilt of stabbing Punpun was like the last straw, maybe,
Yeah.
you know. But there was a possibility for her to commit suicide like even before that happened. Like I wonder he interrupted her writing on the Tanabata paper
Yep.
like a last volume or maybe 2 volumes ago.
Yep.
But I wonder when she actually wrote what she wrote, may you never forget me. Because if she wrote that a long time ago, that means she was contemplating suicide a long time ago.
Yep.
I don't know when.
Um,
You would have to like go back and read through
yep.
like really carefully in order to figure out when exactly she wrote that.
I think she just wrote that before she died. It's like a dying wish from her. It make more sense.
Well, where exactly does he discover it? Wasn't it inside her purse?
It inside her purse when he went back to retrieve the bag.
Yeah, from the phone booth, right?
Yeah, from the phone booth, and I still don't know what exactly happened to her corpse afterwards, because when he went back, the body was gone.
Right. The kids must have like called the police or something, because the
Not
police
really
end up
sure.
talking to Punpun near the end.
Yeah,
They go
but
into his hospital room.
Punpun was pretty much like by himself, pre- uh period before that. So he walk he walk or he does something back to Tokyo to back to where the abandoned factory was,
Yeah.
and attempt to kill himself there. So like it was really a long stretch of time was uh, happening there.
Yeah, that's true. And that was between which two chapters? I can't remember. 140 and
So,
141, I think.
yeah. Um,
Because 140 is the chapter where Pegasus claims victory over God.
yeah. I don't get the whole resolution thing about Pegasus either.
Yeah, dude. Honestly, Pegasus' story it's probably just some metaphor, because it runs like kind of tangentially to Punpun's story. He never gets involved with Pegasus at all. We were speculating throughout this whole
He,
thing, like how is Punpun gonna or Aiko gonna end up involved in his in the whole cult
yep.
storyline, but it never happens. And I thought for a moment that like the story was gonna pull the Seki was the protagonist all along,
Yep.
kind of thing, because Sachi starts talking about him like the
Yep.
lunch
Yep.
shop
Yep.
son that she knew from elementary school and that she encountered when she was in middle school. So she was the girl in the factory, like you thought.
Yep.
Um,
I don't know if you noticed, but they got like the pictures of where Sachi was in middle school,
yeah.
and we see the face there, and that's the face of the girl we saw in the abandoned building.
Okay. I didn't go back and check, but I figured that that was probably the case because she
Yep.
she says like directly to Nanjo or
Yep.
Kanye, whatever,
Mm.
um, that happened. That there was a boy who was interested in her manga from
And,
elementary school, and that she met him again by chance. And that he was the
yep.
lunch guy's son. I can't remember what exactly he did.
Yep.
Lunch salesman.
But what even more amazing is that you remember like the kids right afterward they saw the shooting stars.
Yeah, the Milky Way.
Yeah, the Milky Way, and she saw that as well, and that's why she painted the picture of where Punpun saw it when he was in middle school.
Yeah, but like despite that connection, the
Uh-huh.
nothing ever really comes of it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's what I still like does really uh doesn't really sure about, because I think there is like a whole bunch of context of subtext of like deep meaning behind all that, but at the end of the day I saw that just very loosely connecting, and it doesn't really mean anything. Like if we get like the relationship between Seki and Sachi when they was when they was young, but what's to make of it, I don't really know.
I mean, I kind of think that that's the point. That we're given a lot of. I mean, throughout the whole story, I keep thinking back to that one transition between, I think it's like Seki and Shimizu talking, and then
Mhm.
the camera pulls back, and we see Aiko and the badminton player walking down the
All
same
right. Yep.
street talking, and then the camera pulls back and Punpun is there. Like I can't remember if those are the exact characters or if that's the exact order of the panels, but like there are connections made between different stories, but they never quite overlap. I think that's a
Mhm.
theme that's kind of run throughout the whole manga actually, is that like
Mhm.
Seki's story seems pretty separate from everything else that's happening, and Pegasus' story seems pretty separate from everything else that's happening. And at the end, you do learn that there are these connections between characters who have met in the past, but whose paths don't cross again in the present,
Mhm.
and probably won't cross again in the future. Um, and I think that's kind of the point that like we're like Punpun talks a lot about how people can't really understand one another. Um,
Mhm.
that it's not really possible because everyone functions individually. Um,
Mhm.
and if that's the case, if people can't really understand each other, then isn't that just how life would proceed for everybody? Like it's it's true that you've met a whole bunch of people throughout your life, and what you like your relationships with them in the past, they won't necessarily carry on to the future. Like
Mm.
it's possible
All
that
right.
you walk past people who or you have like near misses with people who you've met in the past, um,
Mhm.
and you don't know it,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter
I
because
think
because
that.
it never happens in the
Mm.
because it never ends up happening. Like you never meet the people who you met in the past. It won't necessarily carry on. Like life just keeps moving, and your life isn't a manga. Like those threads aren't going to cross just because you
Mhm.
want them to, or just because it could happen that way.
Yeah. I think that informed the last chapter where we follow the point of view from Harumi,
Yeah, that was a
uh,
strange way to end it.
and how he crossed path. Yeah, and now he cross path with a Punpun, and it's like in one of the more like insignificant meeting that they have. Like they meet, they talk each other, they part ways, and Harumi think that and on knows that they would never see each other again. And even then, Harumi still can't recall Punpun name.
Yeah, it was a weird decision to end it from Harumi's point of view. I mean, I guess making him into a teacher is what Asano wanted, because then he can have the kind of circular ending where a new girl, you know, joins
Okay,
a
yes.
class, and there's a guy who like is
Yeah.
immediately smitten with her. The
Mm,
same kind of thing that happened with Punpun and Aiko.
yeah.
And it
And
actually go
others,
ahead.
others, yep. Well, I just want to say that other supporting characters, the doesn't have their happy ending either. Like Konatsu and Seki. Like we all guessed it last week that Seki gonna save Konatsu. We thought that Konatsu died
Shimizu?
and died. Oh, sorry, Shimizu. Uh, he survived, but at the end of the day, he doesn't remember he who Seki is.
Yeah. Yeah, and you would think like I guess this is another example of things just not turning out the way you expect, like as a reader or as an individual. Like you would think that if Seki saves him, that's gonna like restore Shimizu's relationship with him, but nope.
Mhm. No, and maybe it's better that way. Jeez,
Is it?
what a
I mean,
story.
maybe. The whole Pegasus thing. I don't. I mean, I think Asana was just working through something with that character. I mean, this whole thing seems pretty personal because there's a lot of like, one of the characters is a manga author, and Punpun at one point tries his hand at writing a story for a manga. There's the whole bit of
Yeah,
commentary where like they go into the publisher's office, and he's like, this kind of story won't sell.
yeah.
The kind of story that's just about everyday life and about normal, like ordinary people won't sell. And then in what I can't remember what chapter it is exactly. It's one of the last ones,
Yeah.
144 maybe, where Sachi,
Versace's, yep,
yeah,
yep.
she says that she's gonna like write a new story with this character, and it's the way that Punpun looked in the elementary school
Yep.
chapters. Um, and
I
she's
think
like,
it's like, yep,
when
three,
that happened, I was
four.
afraid that it was like it was gonna go for some sort of "it was all a dream" ending. I was like, no, don't do this. But it's actually a character that Mimura doodled.
Yep. I was thinking though that maybe like there's a possibility that Aiko survive. So that like when Punpun see Aiko hanging herself, it's just like a part of his hallucination because we don't really see the body of Aiko afterwards.
What do you mean? He carries her around on his back.
It's just him though. Like
The kids
there's
see her.
only yeah, like the only like two kids like saw her later,
So when the
but
body
wait,
disappeared,
but
you thought that maybe like the idea was that she hadn't really died. He was just imagining all that, and the body not being there means that she's just like escaped or run off.
yeah, not really a scare. Yeah, well, like there's a possibility of that.
Yeah.
Like because Punpun and Aiko's had when Aiko hang himself, it's just Punpun there, and Punpun, if for me, is kind of like a very unreliable narrator. So yeah, so that just what like one of the possibility, but then again, I think it make more sense that like he kill himself and he die and leave Punpun alone in the world.
Yep.
It just God. I still don't know what I feel about this ending.
Yeah, it
It's
is hard to process.
it's affecting for sure. This raw and depressing for sure, and still like that the panel where she hang himself it really got me.
Okay. Yeah.
Still though, I'm not really sure if it's all the story like managed to tangle up, managed to um make sense at all.
Yeah.
But I know for sure that as this is the way that Arsenal wanted to end. It feels completely in that way.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't really. It's difficult to wrap your head around, and I do think that like this is just Asano's story, like in the same way that Evangelion is Hideaki Anno's. Like they're clearly using it as some sort of like purge
Yeah,
to expel some sort of feeling that they
pain.
have,
Yeah,
some sort of trauma or
I can see that. I can see that. It's
like he
like
Asano
like they
feels
they're in the demon.
yeah, kind of like Asano feels resentful of the publishing industry. The I still remember the line from the well, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to recall it actually, but the line from when they go to the publishing company
Yeah, yeah.
and he's like,
Mhm.
I'd like to put my head right up next to her pussy and take a big whiff.
Yep.
Um, like just him being as like crude as possible when portraying one of the editors in the office. Uh,
Yeah.
the fact that he worked in a manga into his manga, like a story about somebody who's trying to move on. There must be some significance to that. Um, the fact that Punpun like lives and it's the manga, the person who creates stories who he ends up with, the person who painted the Milky Way that he ends up
Mhm.
with. There must be some significance to that. But like even though that's who quote unquote saves him,
Mhm.
it's the person who was just like him and who was also like trapped in feelings of shame and guilt and like self-hatred. That's
I
the
think
person who he really loved, and that's the person who leaves him behind. There must be
yeah.
some analog to his own life hidden
I
there.
Yeah, I think Punpun got lucky though because he got saved by Sachi, and also because that Sachi is willing to listen to what he have to say. Like she said something along the line that I know that you can say it now, but whenever you want to tell me about what been happening to you, I'm all ears.
Yeah. I mean,
So
is I don't I wouldn't say that he's lucky. If the goal of life is just to continue living, then yeah, he lucked out for sure. But is that the
well,
goal of life to just
I
stay alive? Like
no no yeah, yeah, but I just mean that he lucky in a way that he still has someone who really care about him, and who is willing to listen to him if he just like open his heart.
Yeah.
He just couldn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, the story is pretty indulgent in that way. Like, it creates
Yep.
Punpun, like he, despite all the terrible stuff that he's done, there's still he survives, and there's a woman who is willing to like be with him, to take care of him, I suppose, to listen to him, like you said, and that's probably the biggest thing, is that she's, if he wants to talk, she's willing to listen. Because I didn't think that sort of ending was in store for Punpun at all. Like, I thought the whole idea was that he and Aiko just didn't make it. Like, they couldn't fit in. They were too damaged in order to live happily or normally, and so they were just going to end up dead. And I mean, that's what we were headed towards, that ending like multiple times.
Yep. Yep.
Uh,
They actually really planned out for that, for Punpun finally killing Aiko and he kill himself. They're all preparing for that ending to happen.
Yeah, and the one thing that I guess we haven't talked about is that Punpun's kind of inner monologue, how he's talking to himself before, when he goes to the factory and before he stabs himself in the eye. I thought it was the neck, but I guess I'm wrong. It makes way more sense for him to have stabbed himself in the eye. The way he's talking to himself is like, I finally did it. Like, I accomplished my mission. I've rid myself of all connections. Now I'm finally alone. I can finally do it. I can finally end my life.
Yep.
So Sachi saving him is in direct opposition to that mission that he had been on, I guess. Because he feel like he's happy. He's like elated. Obviously he's crazy, but he's so pleased with himself that he's finally managed to sever all the ties that were binding him to anyone or anything. He left behind all his possessions. Aiko leaves him behind. We see those three like spreads, those three double page panels of him like in the middle of a crowded city, like in the middle of a gigantic intersection, people walking all around him. Nobody recognizes him. Nobody speaks to him. He doesn't say anything.
I love the shot.
Yeah, he's alone.
Yep.
I think that's the point of those images. So he goes to the factory.
He just stand there like in the middle of the busy street, but he just completely outplaced alone.
Yeah, definitely out of place.
That was pretty good.
So then he's come to the end.
Yep.
He goes to the factory to kill himself, and Sachi, like, she ruins his plan.
Yep.
So it's true that he lives, but I don't think that's what he wanted. And the fact that
Maybe.
the fact that Sachi like does stumble upon him, and I assume like calls an ambulance or whatever, that means that his ties to other people are like reestablished, and her willingness to listen to him and to be there for him is like an obstacle, I guess, because now he can't do it. Like, now he can't go and be with Aiko.
Yep.
Because there's somebody stopping him from doing that. There's someone in the way.
Yep. All right. I think that I can understand the way that you say that Punpun is Arsenal thing, just like the other show. It feels self-indulgent.
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah, it doesn't come across as like a totally organic work of fiction.
Yep.
It feels like you're reading somebody's creation, But that's
Yep.
okay. There's like value in that as well, I think.
Yeah, that's true. So in order to really understand, like all these plot thread going on, I think it's better that we know about we read more about what Asano intention in any of these,
But see, I don't want
because
to.
otherwise, yeah, yeah, I know, but because otherwise, like the message don't really come across.
But that isn't that the whole point of stories, is that everyone takes their own meaning from
Yeah,
them.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. And my point of view is that Pegasus ending, like his finale, his the way to achieve his goal is just all BS bullshit.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, you know. I'm
And actually, you would right. Like the other guy, Waki or something. He
Wada.
got away with that.
Yeah.
Wata.
Yeah, he does. Um, the whole Pegasus thing, it's nonsensical, you know, it's like absurd and it doesn't really tie into the main story. Um,
Mm-hmm.
not in a way that I can really understand, at least, but I'm sure it means something to the man who wrote it. But I keep thinking about the shonen version of Pegasus's story. Um, you
Right.
remember, like, at the start of volume 12 or
Yep.
11,
Yep.
one of
Yep.
those, like, the story so far. Pegasus
Yep.
is the prince, and he has to use his magical vibrations in order to defeat the evil demon. You know, like, it's
Yep.
it's some sort of Pegasus's role in the story. It's some sort of commentary.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know what it's a commentary on, but he defeats God at the end. I think that's the idea. Is that he's playing that game with the Daruma, the Chibi Daruma doll, or whatever it's called, Darumaka,
Uh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and the game they're playing is like you pull knives out of, or I don't know if you pull knives out of a barrel or you put them in, um, but there's someone in the middle, um,
Uh,
and you can see that at the end, like the way that he wins when he says it's our victory,
uh,
um, when the Dharma like pulls a knife out, I think is what's happening, or he's putting it in, like God gets
yeah.
ejected from the barrel.
All right.
Uh,
I don't really get that, but all right.
it's I
I,
I think the message is that God's being defeated because the Dharma doll, the big-lipped alien thing that was in the middle of the barrel as they're playing the game,
yep.
they're all like representations of God. And even
Mm-hmm.
the face, the God's like smiling face with the glasses that we often seen in Punpun's um,
Mm-hmm.
mind, or however it's being expressed. He's present
Yep.
in that scene. He's in the middle of the Dharma doll's eye. So he says,
Mm-hmm.
Pegasus says, "It's our victory," and then we get that scene of all the strings converging,
Mm-hmm.
and the Milky Way is in the background. And then there's all those godheads that like rain down from the sky, and that's the meteor shower that they see later.
Yep.
I can't say I really understand any of that at all.
Yep. I think it wouldn't feel out of place to say that this, like the moment that you just described is like Ikuhara shows.
Dude, it's not even that straightforward because there's not a clear metaphor. Uh, I don't really get it, but there's a lot of commentary about God in Oyasumi
Yep.
Punpun.
Yep. Yep.
And I think this is like the final word, is that Pegasus is somehow defeating God, and perhaps we're meant to think that like this is supposed to, maybe his prophecy was like Punpun defeating God, because he stabs himself in the eye in order to rid
Yep.
himself of God's
Oh God.
influence,
Yep.
yeah, or like his other self. Um, I don't know, man.
It's
Oh, how
well.
about Yuichi's son being born and him having God in his eye?
Yeah. Well, I can say anything about that.
Oh, I that's something that I
I,
understand very well. Actually, it's a commentary on mental illness being passed from parent to child.
uh, it's run on in the gene,
Yeah, that's
as they say.
Punpun's mother. Punpun's like
Hmm.
craziness, his whatever it is, whatever disorder it is that he has, it comes from his mother's side of the family, which is where
Hmm.
Yuichi's from.
Yeah.
And that Yuichi passes on some of his instability and some of his tendency, uh, like his crazy tendencies to his son. That's why God appears in his eye and that like little tiny speck. That was like that was actually the most impactful moment of this volume to me, more than Aiko hanging herself
Yeah.
and Punpun stumbling upon the body. It was seeing in that little baby's eye a hint of the madness uh, that his father has carried with him for his whole life.
Uh, such a just a downer ending.
Yeah.
Like even with like the born of the new baby, which is the born of new life, which is for any other story would be like a really happy ending. Here though,
Yeah. Well, Yuichi says, "Is this hope?" Like
yep,
that's what he thinks to himself alone in that little I don't know, like the entrance of the hospital.
yep,
Uh, that was a weird place a weird place to put him for that panel. And
yeah, but
we finally see like what he really looks like. Of course, his face is covered up, but
right,
he's wearing that hat.
just like Punpun in like previous chapter, I think. Like when he wakes up, we see like his real body without the clear face.
Oh, you mean like in the
When he
hospital at the end when he's all bandaged up?
Yeah, that's right, that's
And
right.
he's about to say what his real name is, but he gets
Yep,
we don't get to hear it.
yep,
So I think it's implied Pun Pun's not his real name.
yep.
Punyama was perhaps his real last name
Yep.
before it was changed to Onodera.
Mm, mm.
So the fact that he is referred to as Punpun throughout the whole story could be like him trying to go back to his childhood when he was Punyama.
Mm.
Um,
I Yeah, that makes sense. That at the end, Harumi still don't remember his name, so
yeah,
it's
and
not Punpun.
we don't know
It's
it
something
either.
else. Yep.
We don't remember his name. We don't know his name either.
All right. We don't even know his face. We still don't know his face. Just a little bird
Yep.
or pyramid, or like
Or the
dead
demon with
voice.
the
Or,
four different eyes.
yeah. All
Yeah.
right. What I still think that it's worth it. Like the whole experience. I it's depressing for sure, but it it's like one of the raw. It evokes something else from you, from
It,
the
yeah.
from the point of view, and from this, like the dark depressing thought. It's good.
Yeah, it's definitely evocative. It doesn't have the most satisfying conclusion, I don't think, but that's also I think that's part of the I like that may have been by design.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
things don't get wrapped up in real life. Like all the threads
Yeah.
don't converge in the Akashic records or whatever Pegasus was talking about. It's not the way life works. And I mean perhaps that's why Pegasus was in the story because he was setting us up to believe that there was some sort of grand prophecy that was going to be fulfilled, that there was going to be some world-ending event, or that
And nothing happened.
something of significance was going to happen at the very least. But
Right.
nothing really did. Like a woman lost
Yep.
her life; she was murdered by her daughter. Um, the
Who
daughter hanged
kill herself?
herself.
Yep.
Poon Poon survived, but does any of it really matter?
Yep.
And Pegasus presence in the story is kind of part of what leads you to believe that
I
there's something greater, and then that expectation is violated by the ending.
I do think that like the event turned out like, but Pegasus building and his coal got clowed away by the bomb or by the fire is like more urgency. Like the people gonna remember that story more than a story about um, a a mother who get murdered by a girl, a daughter who later hang herself.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it was on the news. Uh, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
the murdered woman, and they're
The
looking for the
runaway.
daughter.
Yes.
It was on the news. So some people will remember that, I guess. But after, it'll stick in their memory for a while, and then they're just going to go on with their lives.
Yep.
Uh, well, even for Pegasus too. Like he had the governor speeches that were televised, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a video on YouTube of his like last prophecy before his death, and you can see that like the like to dislike ratio is skewed in favor of dislikes. It only has like a
Yep.
couple thousand views. Um, so even he is just he's gonna end up forgotten most likely. Nobody really cares. Um,
All right.
Life just goes on, and there's
Yep.
another Punpun in the making.
Yep.
There's his
Yep.
little baby. Uh,
And another love stories.
yeah, there's a little baby
Yeah. Up
nephew
in the air.
with a speck of madness in his eye, and there's another Punpun who falls for an emotionally guarded girl who like won't open up to her teacher on the way to her self introduction to her class.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and then the very last line of the manga is the last few lines are like repetitions of things that were said in the original elementary school first two volumes, and the last one is like, did you know humanity's going to go extinct? But they didn't. Like Pegasus said that the world was going to end, that humanity was going to go extinct, and it didn't happen. Life just it keeps going. Some people die, some people continue to live, even if they don't quote unquote deserve it.
Yep.
But we're not
All
extinct
right.
yet.
Yep. Not yet. All right. I think we go a bit over the time with the last one of Punpun, but I think it's worth every minute of it.
Well, I don't know like if I would say that reading this was worth it. There were some parts of it that made me feel like really sick to my stomach.
Yep.
I will say that like especially the first like 4 volumes, elementary school and middle school, I thought were just brilliant.
Mm.
I loved those.
Yep.
Just for their depiction of like how unfair I suppose Punpun's life was, like how he struggled to maintain some sense of normalcy even while his family was like insane, and everything was against him.
Yep, and I agree. Like I think like the first few volumes, the mix of comedy and drama is much stronger and to a greater effect than the second half of the volumes of it runs.
Yeah, I prefer the beginning,
Yep.
but I like this is the way that it went, and I can't say that the killing of Aiko's mom being like the pivotal moment of the whole story. I can't say. I mean, in most stories it would feel completely out of place, but I can't say that in this one it was
Yep.
completely unexpected. You could just tell even when Punpun and Aiko were little kids, something was
Yep.
horribly wrong, and it was
Yep.
going to get
Yep.
worse for them, and it did.
Yep. The moral story is never just a character that is a bird.
Yeah. No, you can't
Or
trust
plant.
birds. They're speaking their weird bird language, chirping. Can't understand what they're saying.
They don't even say anything. Yep.
Right. Yeah.
They think they think of God as like an Afro guy, and
Yeah, I wonder what the deal was with Punpun, all of his dialogue having that black background and the white text on top of it. I guess it's so that
Yeah.
you don't see him speaking like with a speech bubble,
No, no, I actually like that idea. I just think like it highlight the detachment of him from other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we see him more like as a passenger, not like actively involved or participate in his life, which is basically his personality, his characteristic.
Yeah, and I mean that could even be the way that he experiences the world, like
Yep, yep,
in terms of his senses, like how he perceives things.
right.
He might not like be a he might not be a participant. Like there could be moments where he just seems to be observing
Yep,
his own life from like he's like trapped in his own body.
yep. All right. I think that just wrap up our postcard this week.
We did
Next
it.
week we yep. Next week we're gonna do Ocean Wave. I like the most forgotten Ghibli films because it's not like an actual theoretical films of Ghibli.
Yeah, it was a TV movie, I think.
Yep.
Dude, I can't wait. It's gonna be. I mean, I actually know a little bit about ocean waves, so it's not a completely
Uh,
optimistic story, but
all right.
it's got to be more lighthearted than this, right? So
Yeah.
it's gonna
Well,
be a good time.
it might be a good follow up to like Punpun. So it's not an optimistic. So it's a good start.
Well, it's not like a sunshiny love story. That's really all I know about it. I know about one scene that tells me that it's not going to be like, and they live
All
happily
right.
ever after.
I don't know anything about that except for the poster, which they are like on the seaside.
Something like
So
that.
really looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's gonna make me feel better than this. It has
Yep,
to.
yep, yep, definitely. All right, see you guys next week.
Take care.